Welcome to For the Record. Today we're going to meet with some of our women in Sudbury who will be talking to you about some of their experiences in changing from one career path or maybe even one lifestyle to another. With me is Grace Desjardin, who is the owner of the Coach House Inn on Post Road, and Audrey Kipp, who is a graphic designer. Grace, I'm going to start talking to you first and ask you to tell me some of your experiences in how you got from point A to where now you're managing and owning the Coach House Inn.
Well, in 1982, my husband died, and I had a piece of property. So I didn't know exactly what to do, so I researched it a bit. And on the property, there was an old motel built in the 1930s. It had been part of Sudbury since that time. It was still going when we bought the property, and I kept it going until my husband died. And then I decided, well, it was really definitely 1930s. The rooms were about 10 by 12. You could barely turn around. You couldn't put a new shower in it. You couldn't get it through the door. So I decided to rip it down and start with a new motel. Or rather, I call it an inn. I don't call it a motel anymore. And we did. We built one. It's 37 rooms and a restaurant and function rooms. And we're now 3 years old.
Okay. It seemed to me that you've been there so much longer now. I guess we've gotten used to you being over there.
No, it's been a long 3 years.
Yes.
I will say that. We're just about beginning to see the light at the end of the tunnel.
Now, what are some of the things that you ran into when you were making this change from the existing motel to the present one?
Well, it's really very interesting when you start a project like that, especially as I really didn't know what I was doing.
Yeah.
But I learned a great deal. Working with the town boards is a very interesting experience. The Conservation Commission we were walking through the woods in the middle of a snowstorm trying to decide whether there was going to be any water on the property. They're excellent, by the way, and they're really very helpful. And, of course, you have to do all kinds of tests for polluted land nowadays.
Is this the environmental impact statement that you're
absolutely.
After?
And thank heavens our property didn't have anything on it, especially as originally it had been an old turkey farm. And as a result, had all kinds of old trucks left on it and things of that nature, which we'd had hauled away a long time ago, but fortunately no oil or anything had leaked out, because that can be quite disastrous and very costly.
Yes.
But then we went to that, from that point to finding a contractor and an architect and putting the building up. And that was, we had a wonderful, wonderful contractor. So in that case, we were very lucky. It only took about 9 months to build the building.
Now, this must have all been new experiences for you, though. You hadn't
Brand
handled
new.
any of that kind of thing before.
Yes, it was very new. I had a lot of help from the people that I was working with, though, and it was really quite interesting. And the selectmen were very good. The building inspector was excellent. So although it's a learning experience, I think it's a wonderful experience for people if you're lucky enough to have that kind of experience.
And how long did it take you from the time you started all this project until you literally were able to open your doors for business?
Well, shortly after my husband died, I decided I had to do something because the building that we were in was such a disaster. And I would say it took me perhaps 2 years between the inception of the project and the beginning of the building. We tore the building down December 27th, 1984.
It's indelibly
a memorable day as we watched it go down. And then we opened in September of 85. So it really was perhaps 3 years.
So you were finding, even though you had not had a lot of experience in this kind of thing, you did not find a lot of difficulty in dealing with some of these people, your contractors and your town boards?
Really my biggest problem was the bank.
Was this a matter of getting credit from the bank?
Yes. And to convince them that it was a good project. Because banks call hotels transient housing. which is a very unflattering term.
Okay.
But finally, I found a wonderful banker after many, many bankers at Bay Bank in Burlington.
And did you find you had a problem because you were a woman trying to start all of this?
It's very hard to say. Very hard to say. It could have been a lack of experience. It could have been because I was a woman. It could have been the fact that I didn't have any money. I only had a piece of land and an idea. But I think that you just have to persevere if you think your idea is worthwhile. But I will say that they do not like hotels. They have a very bad habit
as an investment
of going under, yes, very quickly. And you can see that's happened in Marlborough, actually, with the Park West that went into bankruptcy a couple of times before they finally got it off the ground.
Okay, that's rather interesting when I think of the prices I pay for a hotel room somewhere. So, Audrey, let me switch to you for a moment over here. You made transitions of a different kind. You weren't necessarily coming in from, let's say, being a housewife to your career. You came right into your career from college, but made a few changes in the course of that time.
Yes.
Let's bring us back to where you are.
Okay, I got my degree in graphic design in 1972, and after college I went out pounding the pavement looking for graphic design work, and I was very impressed at one point in a long look of nothing panning out to hear somebody say to me who couldn't offer me work, if it's what you really want, keep going until you find it, which is what Grace just said about believing in an idea. I knew I wanted to do graphic design, so I just kept looking. When I needed to take a job just to earn a living, I did that, but I kept on looking for graphics until I found it. I actually worked into doing graphic design on a freelance basis while I was working part-time at the art library at Princeton University. And one day an architect walked in looking for a book. I was sitting at the reference desk, and I said to him, "Hey, by any chance, do you know of anybody who needs a graphic designer?" Because often architects and graphic designers work very closely. And he said, "As a matter of fact, my boss needs a graphic designer to design a master plan book." And that was the beginning of my career as a graphic designer, starting within 6 months of leaving college.
So lesson one seems to be don't be shy.
Yes, you have to speak up and go for it, as they say. And I took a full-time job working at Princeton University after that part-time job in the art library, working in a related area. I was in the drafting room doing graphics and drafting, and I worked at that full-time job for over a year, probably close to 2 years, all the while building up my freelance business.
You could do that simultaneously.
Yes, I had to. I didn't have an agreement with the Princeton University not to, but it meant working more than 40 hours a week to do that. And when I was secure enough, I let go of the full-time job. Although I have to say I was scared to do it, and I actually asked my boss at Princeton, "Can I have a leave of absence?" He knew what I was up to, and a gift was he said no. He sort of pulled the carpet out from under me, and because he did that, and just because of my willingness to really work at it, I let go, and I made it work. And after a year in Princeton, when I saw that I could make a living on my own, I moved to Boston because I figured it was a bigger place, more work. I wasn't married at the time, so I had the freedom to move about. And I took a full-time job after freelancing here so that I could get more involved with the graphics community, learning who the typesetters are and the printers and paper houses. And worked at that for a while, and then let go to freelance, and have sometimes taken permanent part-time jobs, once as an art director. And then after so much time, after I got a company off the ground, art directing, then I left and have been freelancing ever since. So it's a field in which I've been able to move in and out of full-time, freelancing, part-time.
So right now you're freelancing.
I'm freelancing, and the combination of work and play, the balance that I've been able to create, seems to work just fine for me in the freelance mode. If I feel like I want to be doing more work or working with the same people over and over again, or there's a particular topic that I want to just totally immerse myself in as a graphic designer, well, then I would consider taking a full-time job. But one of the beauties of freelancing is the diversity of the projects.
And you can set your own schedule pretty well, which helps.
Which is ideal.
Now, Grace, you were raising a family during the time you were in business for yourself.
Right.
How did you find that worked out for you?
Well, I have to say my family is very supportive.
That seems to be a key ingredient in
Absolutely.
making it a success.
As now my daughter is working with me, and that has been a tremendous help because it really means that you don't have to work day and night. Only half the time is yours. But it really, and my boys were very helpful also.
Now, are they working with you in the business also?
No,
or?
they're not right now, but they're both in Florida. But my daughter is still around, still helping me.
So we have a mother-daughter
Right.
team going on over
And I
here.
have a wonderful restaurant manager who takes care of that part of it, because that's definitely a specialty.
Well, I can remember what you went through now to get your restaurant license and all.
Oh,
so
yes.
that's another story about your town boards. How did that eventually work out?
Well, the town was very good. We did get a liquor license, finally, after quite a little bit of hoorah.
Yes.
And no extreme things have happened since we got it. Actually, we do not really have a tremendous use for it because we basically serve breakfast, brunch on Saturday and Sunday, and then we do private functions. And that's where we needed the liquor license, for the private functions, for weddings and meetings and things of that nature.
Well, Coach House seems to lend itself, I'm going to say, a little older crowd than you think of.
Yes. Well, we're basically a business.
My speed, let me put it that way.
Well, we do mostly business. Being next to Raytheon and Digital, they are our big clients. And those men tend to be a little bit more sedate than perhaps the wedding crowd or something like that.
Yes, there's less celebration perhaps.
That's right.
Glad to get
Yes.
on the night.
Well, they just want to get in and get settled for the night. But we're working on our wedding business, and we get a lot of references from the Wayside Inn, which is really nice of them.
Yes.
And we need that business to keep going.
Okay, and Audrey, you've been juggling family as well as career, haven't you?
Yes, I am married now, unlike when I began my career, and I don't have children. My husband is self-employed, so we try to juggle our schedules so that we can spend as much time as possible together. Sometimes I'm fortunate in getting very, very busy when he's away from home. So time goes quickly. He's away from home when he's working. Otherwise, he's at home. So he's got a few seasons during the year when he's particularly busy, and then the phone doesn't ring at all for him, and we can spend our time together, and I'll juggle my schedule so that we can travel or do whatever.
Is he in an unrelated business
He's
to
in
yours?
an unrelated business. He's a marine engineer. He works on large ships. So
I guess.
he goes to his work. He's mostly up on the Great Lakes. He goes to his work rather than it coming to him, although we get many calls a week for repair on small boats, and I'm forever telling people on his office phone that he only works on large ships.
Well, Grace, when you say you have your daughter working with you, that sort of opens up another question to me. Has getting enough labor for your coach housing been a problem?
Yes. It's been a severe problem, and I think that's the same thing has happened to everybody in this area. All businesses have had a lot of problems. Before I started this business, I never even heard of a green card. I never even knew what it looked like. But now we've become very familiar with them, with all the new regulations. But help was so severe that we finally had to get a service for cleaning. So we have an outside service that does all our cleaning. That means that our basic hiring is in the front desk and in the restaurant. It left us free, which was really wonderful. And I don't have any trouble with the front desk. It's a part-time type of job, and in Sudbury there are a lot of women who like a 2-day-a-week
Something
part-time, and it's a fun place to work.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been very fortunate in some of the people that I have.
Just for everybody's benefit now, the green card is the permit for an alien to work. If
That's right.
correct.
And in this area, we have a tremendous number of people from Brazil.
Oh, that's interesting. Now, why Brazil?
I don't know, but they're all from Marlborough. And they're very anxious to work, and they're good workers. We've had very good luck with them. We've also explored hiring the handicapped. And we do use handicapped people out of Framingham. And that's worked out quite well in some of the kitchen positions.
Well, I find that many of our handicapped people are very conscious of doing a good job to establish that the handicap really doesn't
That's
mean
right.
anything.
And we've had very good luck with that.
Yes.
When we get somebody that they like their jobs and they want to keep them, and they really do their part, and they're never late, and they're always there.
Yes.
There's an awful lot to be said for that.
Makes a big difference, I'm sure. Now, in working with some of these people, have you had any problems with language, for instance? Are you able to make yourself understood?
If somebody cannot speak any English at all, it is a great difficulty. Because they just, one of the things I'm always afraid of is if something happens quickly, you really can't explain it.
Yes.
And we really have to, the only place we use people like that is in the kitchen. And that's where, if you're going to have something happen, that's probably where it's going to happen. Water overflowing or something
Sure.
of that nature.
Sure.
But in general, I think we have done quite well with those people and with the handicapped.
Well, that's encouraging to hear.
And older women.
That.
Older women are wonderful because they just need something to do for a short time. It's terrific.
Frankly, get out of the house
them
and
busy.
talk to people again. I was at first surprised, and this was mostly down in Florida, when you'd go into, let's say, Wendy's or something, and instead of the teenagers that you were accustomed to seeing, you were now seeing the senior citizens there. And they enjoyed it. You know, they really were there for the human contact.
Right.
So it does serve two purposes.
Right, to get out of the house.
Yeah.
It's
Yes.
really important.
Yeah. Have a reason to get up and get out made it good. Now, you're pretty much on your own, though, aren't you,
Yes,
Audrey?
and the getting up and getting out, and the being in contact with people brings two things to mind. My first two rules I discovered when I became a freelancer was, number one, get out of bed every morning, and number two, stay away from the refrigerator. The thing about working alone day in and day out is sometimes, as an artist, I feel myself becoming a little bit inward because I don't necessarily have people around to bounce ideas off of or ask for constructive criticism in my art. And it's important to me to keep in touch with other graphic designers, and I have friends who are in the arts so that I can run ideas by them, ask technical questions and whatever. And sometimes I have considered going back to work full-time just for the people contact, although that's not something I'm interested in right now. There are other possibilities like job shopping where I could work temporarily in companies as a graphic designer or art director, just so that I would have contact with other people and be able to keep abreast of the technology, because in typesetting and printing, there's always something new to learn.
Now, Grace, to a point, your business comes to you. But did you have to do anything to aggressively go out and
Oh,
get?
yes.
All right.
Yes, we do a lot of networking. We do a lot of going around to different companies.
Oh, you do?
Oh, we go right to them, yes. We do a tremendous amount of direct mail and a lot of telephone, a lot of cold calling.
And it would be mainly to different companies?
A lot, yes, basically
that
to
you do this,
businesses.
And do you advertise in different?
We advertise everywhere. Really. We try to advertise in business magazines. We can't afford to advertise in magazines like Yankee. It's
Is that right? Are they?
It's so outrageously expensive. You just couldn't possibly do it. Plus, we are really not a tourist hotel. We are really more of the business type. We do a lot of direct mails to tour companies, bus companies, and that's a learning experience to get a bus full. We've had a few, and we're really trying to learn how to handle them.
Is this because you had this large influx of people at one
All
time?
at once. All at once. It's quite a unique experience. We suddenly discovered that what you've got to do is go out to them and keep them on the bus until they have their keys. Because they all get there and they're just standing in lines.
In the lobby,
Yeah. So it's been an interesting experience, and we still have a long way to go. A lot more to
like
learn.
You're doing very well.
Well, we're having a lot of fun. We really are.
Well, that's one good thing, of course, is enjoying your work is
Right.
half the battle, as we
Right.
know. Now, how about you, Audrey? How do you go about getting your business?
Just about all of my work comes by word of mouth. The one or two times I've run ads locally, nothing has panned out. People have called, but we're not right for each other. And most of my work comes by word of mouth. Somebody sees graphic design that I've done, and they call me, or I meet people at parties and they just happen to need a graphic designer. So it works out very well. I do just about every area in my life. I meet people that need a graphic designer or know of somebody who does. So
Well, I think that's pretty extraordinary.
it sells itself. And I don't care for cold calling. It's just I'm not comfortable. I'm not comfortable
It's
with
something
it.
you really have to get used to. It's a very difficult thing to do. I usually send somebody else.
Well, I suppose like everything else, it's an art.
It is.
That you
Yes.
can do or
And some
not
people
do.
are excellent at it.
Yes,
Sure.
and they might not mind it.
Yeah.
That's the last thing I want to do is pick up the phone and call people and
Well, some people
Yes.
are absolutely wonderful telemarketers, and I
Yes.
had a girl who was really incredibly good, and it really is an art, and it's a learned art.
Yes.
I'm convinced of it. I mean, it's
Yes.
not something that you're born with, unfortunately.
Well, I was going to say, some people can charm you into or out of anything, and I suppose that's what does it. You're telling me that you meet people who need a graphic designer. I think is extraordinary, because how many times do you go somewhere and say, "Hi there, I'm a graphic designer"?
Yeah, I don't usually bring it up. At parties, I don't bring it up, but
Sure.
there was a while where every single party I went to, I'd walk out with a design. I also have my business card on local printers' bulletin boards, and often somebody will call and say, "I saw your business card. I wonder if you could do this or that." So that's a mild way of advertising. It's certainly free. And very often one job leads to another. That first
Yes, I'm
freelance
sure.
job I had in Princeton was the beginning of just a whole tree of doing graphic design for people in that area. One job led to another, and that job led to one or two others, and I'm fortunate in that my work either talks for itself or there's a need where I happen to be. In this area, I've been called by a lot of high technology companies to do work for them, or at least give them estimates or whatever. But any single field, if they need the work and they come across my name or they've seen my work, then I'm lucky. They call.
Now, what are the kinds of things they ask you to do? You know, things like logos are the first thing that spring to mind.
Yes, logos. Business stationery, whether there's a logo or not, doesn't always stationery doesn't always require a logo. Brochures and posters and trade show graphics, and sometimes slide presentations. Most of the work that I do is in the print area, although sometimes it's three-dimensional. Incentives like mugs for giveaways and things like that.
So some of it would be involved in their advertising.
Yes. Oh, yes.
Brilliant. Now, when you do a brochure, do you also do the copy, or do they provide that for you?
They provide it, or I help them find a writer. Sometimes I will recommend that they use an editor, because sometimes somebody has written it and they don't know it needs cleaning up. Same with proofreading. Things need proofreading when they come back from the typesetter. I don't sell my services as a proofreader or a writer or editor, but I usually know when my client needs somebody, and I will catch errors and let them know, but I basically am doing the graphic design, working with existing photographs or finding a photographer to do photography, art directing that, doing the typography, having typesetting done, but designing the layout and working with the printer, and taking a job from the manuscript through the printed piece. I can handle every single detail in between, either myself or by finding somebody to do illustration and photography and whatever.
Now, in your job, there's a little more complication involved probably than there is in Audrey's. You get involved in some of the different laws now that govern your operation, don't
Yes.
you?
Yes, we get through. We belong to a lot of associations: the Innkeepers Association, the Mass Restaurant Association, the Hotel Association. You know, so that they have enough literature that comes out to us, so that we try to keep abreast of everything that's happening. Especially in the restaurant area, that's where you can. There's a tremendous number of laws and governing that.
I was going to say, I imagine you run into the Board of Health, for starters.
Our Board of Health is wonderful. They've always been wonderful. As far as I'm concerned, they will come, and if there is any problem, they tell us, and we can fix it right away. And also, we have the advantage of having a new building.
Yes.
So that the building is already sprinklered. It's already, it fits all the rules that were necessary. And Joe Scammon helped us when we were building it and to make sure that everything was all right.
So that saves you a lot of headaches down the line.
If you had to do it afterwards, it would be almost impossible. It would be building a new building all over.
I wonder, do they allow them to grandfather anything on some
I
of these
don't
things?
I think on the sprinklers, that law will go into effect in a couple of years, I think, or a few
But you
years.
have to-
Everybody has to be sprinkled, and it's a very good thing.
Yes.
I mean, especially as I have a wooden building.
Yeah.
So
Makes
I
sense.
think that all of those things are,
Okay.
pretty important.
So you have the labor laws to contend with also.
Right. We're basically part-time. We have almost all part-time people, so the health laws and some of those new mandates don't affect us that much. We're pretty small. We only have 25 people working for us.
Okay, so at this moment, the compulsory health insurance, for instance, which I guess is on hold at the moment anyway
Right.
for the state of Massachusetts, is not one of your problems for the moment.
Not yet.
So, and Audrey, you're not employing any other people
That's
now, so
right.
this is a matter of working yourself.
That's right. I do sometimes have to employ somebody to do illustration if it's something I can't handle myself, or photography. And the only law that I have to follow is to file the proper form with IRS if the person has earned over a certain amount of money. But those are really the only legal ramifications.
Okay. Well, today you've been listening to and talking with Grace Desjardin, owner of the Coach House Inn, and Audrey Kipp, who has her own graphic design business. Both women started their own job, their own occupations. Both of them are making a success of it. Everything you've heard today is for the record.